Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday episode, a post-Masters episode of The Lock Shop. Nielsen and Hustler with you, brought to you by Coolbet. And is that a green jacket winner I see over there, Huss?
As a Masters champion, I felt like it was my duty to wear this jacket on today's program. Scotty Scheffler, you freaking animal. What a performance. He got it done, making me look like a stinking genius after backing the number one player in the world going into the tournament. But I'll tell you what, yeah, I'm still on a high. And the good thing is that the weekend was great. The picks last week were awesome. There was plenty in the Coolbet account to go down and do some panic buying this morning before this storm coming away. Have you heard about this? Do you know what we're dealing with right now?
I had somebody text in today. They're like, I'm driving back from Ontario. I'm about to go through one of the worst storms ever in Manitoba. And I was just like, wait a second, what's going on? Tell me.
If I go to the weather app right now, the first thing that shows up is worst blizzard in decade looms. The warning that we get, the first line, major spring storm poised to wallop southern Manitoba, widespread snowfall accumulations 30 to 50 centimeters, accompanied by 60 to 70 kilometer hour winds, giving zero visibility. Here it is. Do not plan to travel. This storm has the potential to be the worst blizzard in decades. We starting tonight. And again, maybe it's the yin and yang. If you had told me, though, we were going to get the worst blizzard in decades, but I was going to win the Masters, I would have taken it. I'll tell you that much. So have you ever had a Donair pizza?
Oh, buddy, of course. I'm in Edmonton. I've had Donair everything. But yes, I've had Donair pizza, yes.
I grabbed one, I don't know, a while ago, I don't know what state I was in when I was in the grocery store, but I thought, wow, that looks good. And
you bought it in the grocery store?
Yeah, like a frozen Donair pizza.
Oh, I've never had one of those.
And so today I had to go back. I was just talking to Remus and I said, man, I don't think I've been in a grocery store since like week 1 of NFL. But I went today, got those little Easter cupcakes. Like this looked like I was planning for a party and not, 3 days outside of anything. But I got the Donair pizzas, a sleeper item.
Now I was going to say you've had them before and now you're loading up again.
I had them before. I thought I would try it once. I was expecting that it would suck, and it was actually awesome. So I don't know what the brand is. There's only one Donair pizza, at least out here. But we'll be eating those, hunkering down. Ironically, watching baseball over the next few days as we deal with this. Yeah, the winter that never ends, not quite done. Hell, the Jets might be finished before the snow's done here, and the season goes till the end of the month. So
that's well, you know what, buddy? Our thoughts are it's cold here today. It must be. I don't know if whatever's coming from through here is coming down to you guys because we're getting like a few flurries today, and that's it. It's cold and a few flurries, but this is not a weather podcast, but it might be coming down that way. It was plus 20 on Friday, buddy. It's minus 12 this morning. So
that's unbelievable. Well,
there's a cold front moving through.
WST is going to be Winnipeg Storm talk today. And,
the only thing that can heat up now is Scotty Scheffler even a little bit more. I mean, 4 wins in like 54 days, Huss. And we're going to get to RBC Heritage in a second. But I don't think people realize. Like, I know I had buddies, the guys on the Bear, and a bunch of guys who are like, tell me about this Scotty Scheffler. I'm like, well, he's the number 1 player in the world, and he's been lights out for 2 months. But, I mean, this is an all-time run. He's made like $8 million in the last 6-7 weeks. It's nuts.
Well, listen, it's a historic run, and it has happened where guys have just gotten hotter than a pistol and carried it through. But to think that he, won those 2 events, then won the match play to become number 1 player in the world, and then won his first major and a green jacket, which is life-changing in itself. I think Scotty Scheffler is going to be up as the number 1 player for a while right now. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take for him to knock it down. He's by far the fastest player ever to achieve the number 1 ranking from the date of his first win. And it was phenomenal. I mean, there were a few nervous moments. I thought the third hole on Sunday was the tournament. I mean, he had two sketchy pars. Smith goes birdie. It's a one-shot lead. And I just remember him hitting it left. And Jim Nantz goes, "That's the farthest left I've ever seen anybody hit it on the third hole." And I'm like, oh my God. And but you know what? He took advantage of a nice ruling due to the temporary stands, got a hole to hit it, got it close. And I mean, the chip in, yeah, a little bit lucky. If it doesn't hit the pin and go in, he's probably got a 20-footer coming back, much like Cam Smith did. But the bottom line was he came up with a huge shot when he needed it, steeled himself, and didn't even matter if he four-jacked the 18th hole for the green jacket. You could tell the nerves. And the stories, apparently he was like crying on Sunday morning, saying to his best friend, "I don't think I'm up to it." I'm like, I'm glad I didn't hear that before going in. That would have really rattled me going in. But listen, it was much more than Scotty Scheffler. I mean, we were all over the board, man, with our picks. I think we had 5 of the top 9 guys. Corey
I got the list right here. Scheffler, we had him. Rory, we didn't. Lowry, we didn't. Smith, we had him. Morikawa, we had him. Zalatoris, we had him. Connors, we had him. JT, we didn't. And Sanjay In, we had him. So that was a good. If you were betting top 10s for our guys, you're laughing.
All over it. I went in and I had Connors top 10 along with 2 of the guys that I bet, Zalatoris and Im. I had Cam Smith, the top Aussie. Sungjae Im, the top Asian. So the exotics came through. Maybe my best golf tournament ever. And what better one to do it than the Masters? And listen, I know there wasn't a lot of drama in the final few holes. That sucked for a lot of people. Not if you had Scotty Scheffler. So Scotty, congratulations. Looking forward to this RBC Heritage. Interesting tournament, which we'll get to a little later on. And hey, we're 4 weeks away from the PGA. Which, speaking of Scotty Scheffler, Dusty, and I just realized this wasn't on the Lock Shop. This was on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I had Feinberg on last week, kind of getting ready, talking Masters going forward, and we were talking about Scotty Scheffler and the odds for him there. And I looked over to the PGA, and he said that Southern Hills is his favorite course, and he was at 25-1. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen at the Masters, but I think this could be the tournament. So I actually bet him before the Masters for the PGA at 25-1. And sure enough, he opened as a 12-1 favorite right now. So
there you go.
We got a nice number on that one too.
Perfect. Everything's turning up golf right now for the Lock Shop. So that's great. We'll get to some RBC Heritage picks in a little bit, but let's dive into the National Hockey League tonight. We each got 3 games that we're on. If you want to parlay them, we've got some numbers for you there as well. Once again, the Lock Shop is presented to you by CoolBet. If you're watching the live stream right now, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Just search the Lock Shop on all your podcasting platforms. Huss, where are you going on the ice tonight, buddy?
Well, first off, I just want to apologize to everyone for the choke job of the Minnesota Wild last Friday. That prevented what would have been one of only 1 or 2 ever perfect Lock Shops. All the basketball picks were there. We talked about the golf, which, of course, was from Tuesday. But the Wild blowing that 3-1 lead killed the 3-gamer that I gave out at plus 750, and it killed the partner parlay. And other than that, everything was clean. So I had thought about the Wild tonight, although the Oilers are playing really well. That is off the board. But I got 3 picks that I like, starting off with the Tampa Bay Lightning at the Dallas Stars. Funny to see Dallas beat Chicago, lose to New Jersey over the last couple of weeks. They are playing the JV division right now for the most part. Not the case coming up against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And, you know, when you think about Tampa and where they are right now, I mean, they would like to move up a little bit, and they had just lost 4 games in a row before beating the Sabres in their last game. I think they are going to be getting into playoff mode. I like them to win in Dallas against the Stars. Money line minus 141. Pretty good number on Tampa, too. And I think that just speaks to the fact that they did have that rough stretch with those 4 straight losses. Next up is the Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Islanders disappointed me a couple weeks ago in that game against the Dallas Stars where they lost 3-2. But before that, they'd won 4 in a row. They beat the Canes on the road, which is a real impressive win, bouncing back from that one, and then got whooped by the Blues in their last game out 6-1. If there's one thing that the Islanders have been really since the in every case, with the exception of one when they played Boston and Tampa, since the All-Star break, they followed up a loss with another win. And they're playing against Pittsburgh, who's going to be without Evgeny Malkin, who was just suspended for 4 games. And the Penguins had just lost 4 in a row before squeaking out a win against the Predators. So I'm going to take the Islanders as a home dog, slight number, plus money, plus 101 in that matchup. And then we'll go to the Calgary Flames. And this was one of those games. I looked at it on CoolBet, and the puck line they're showing is 2.5. Minus 2.5 for plus 125. I wanted to stick this one on a 3-gamer. I certainly didn't want to have the team win by 2 and have that cost me. So we'll buy it down to 1.5, minus 154 for the Flames. Flames, class of the Pacific right now, getting ready for the playoffs. Seattle playing for next year. And the funny thing is, Seattle's playing tonight in Calgary, supposed to play here tomorrow. We don't even know whether they're going to be able to get into the city, depending on what the weather's like and, if that game's going to go on. So, give me Calgary puck line minus 1.5 at minus 154. And we'll throw those in with the Islanders and Tampa Bay money lines for a 467 parlay on a Tuesday lock shop.
I had to adjust my Florida one as well, because if you go look right now at the puck line in that Florida Anaheim game, it's minus 2.5 as well. And I wasn't going to throw a minus 2.5 in here. Mind you, I mean, the Panthers could crush the Ducks, but so I moved it to Panthers minus 1.5. It's minus 172. And we mix that into a parlay here that's going to pay plus 338. Florida is, and it's weird to say, one of the top teams, maybe the best team in the National Hockey League, intrigues you heading into the playoffs, but they really do, because they've been a pretty good team for the last few years. They look even better this year. Their management has decided to go, all in, bringing in some of the guys that they brought in. Can they finally get it done this year? They look like a juggernaut in the regular season. They're averaging 4.16 goals per game, which is remarkable. So they've got an offense that can absolutely terrorize teams. This is a team that's come from behind 6-1 and 5-1 in the last couple of weeks. So I like them minus 1.5 tonight against Anaheim. Toronto Buffalo, I'm going to go on over the 6.5. They've played 3 times this year. They've been over a 6.5 total 2 of the 3 times. The one time they finished under the 6.5, it was a 6, and Toronto only scored 1 goal in that game. It was 5-1 Buffalo. So I have a hard time believing that Toronto's not going to score goals in this game, and Buffalo's had the ability to do that against Toronto this year. So I'm going to be on the over 6.5 in the Sabres and Leafs game at minus 147. Does Austin Matthews hit 60 tonight? That's something that you can monitor as well. And then Philly and Washington. Philly, they've lost 2 of their last 3. The losses were to Anaheim and Columbus, if you're wondering how the Philadelphia Flyers are doing. Washington's interesting because they're actually kind of getting things figured out here. Their last 3 games have been a 4-3 win over Tampa, a 6-3 win over Pittsburgh, and a 4-2 win over Boston. So that's 3 pretty darn good teams in the East that Washington is currently behind in the standings that they have beaten in their last 3 games. So Washington might be kind of finding its step here right before the playoffs. So I'm going to take them in regulation to get a better number at minus 156. So if you go Washington in regulation, over in Buffalo, Toronto, and then Florida minus 1.5, that'll get you to plus 338 if you want to parlay it tonight in the National Hockey League, Huss.
I just can't believe that number at minus 1.5 is minus 172. I mean, it just speaks to the goals that the Panthers have scored and where the Ducks are right now. And hey, listen, you're picking on a couple really bad teams. I like it. Philly and Anaheim are on next year territory. They're ripe for the pickings. And that Buffalo-Toronto game, I believe it's going to be Owen Power's debut in the National Hockey League, which will be exciting for the Sabres franchise. But listen, I think the Leafs also sort of remember being a little embarrassed in that outdoor game just a few weeks ago in that loss to the Sabres. I mean, you laid it out, a 5-1 loss as well this year. They need to get a win. And then just here's a quick question, non-betting related, but while we're talking about the Leafs, Florida's in at 108 points. The Leafs are in and clinched a playoff spot at 100. Tampa's at 96. Boston is at 95. Let's assume the Leafs make the playoffs and finish second and have home ice in the first round. Like, what a choice. Who would you rather play, Tampa or Boston?
Oh,
2-time defending Stanley Cup champs, or the nemesis of this team over the course of this 18 years where they haven't won a round.
I think you'd probably rather still play Boston, but you're right. That would be the most Toronto thing ever. Like, you have this great team, you get Boston again, and Boston knocks you off again, even though Boston has kind of moved on from a lot of those guys who are like the Tuukka Rasks and the Char. All those guys are not there anymore. The Tampa one is interesting, and with either of these two teams, because Tampa, you like to say fat and happy, but they went out of the deadline and brought in some pieces, and maybe they haven't been playing great lately, Huss. But because it's the Leafs, like, you have to think there's even a little bit more incentive as opposed to just staying alive in the playoffs, but to also being the team that finishes off the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Like, for both Boston and Tampa, I mean, there's going to be no shortage of reasons to want to knock off a Maple Leafs team that everybody's talking about is obviously a legitimate Stanley Cup contender.
I know that might be a bit more of a Canadian narrative. I mean, when you're two-time Stanley Cup champs going for a third ring, going up against a team that's been, frankly, a joke for just about 20 years that never wins. I mean, maybe you got a friend on the team, or that they'll talk about it a lot on TSN north of the border. But the Lightning are going in for, they've got a job to do, and beating that first team is the next bit. Boston's a little bit different. I think they love holding it over Toronto. I mean, they are rivals. They'll go back and forth. I mean, the 4-1 game, listen, we don't need to go down the long list of disappointments that the Bruins have handed the Leafs, in fact, but I'm sure they would love nothing more that it can continue that narrative into future seasons going on right now. All that being said, be careful. Toronto's a pretty damn good team, and my God, Auston Matthews is nuclear hot right now. And I'll tell you what, if he plays in the playoffs the way he is right now, and I realize based on history, that is a question mark. But if he's able to do that, like Toronto could win a round. And if they win a round at that point with that monkey off their back, depending on what they get in the net, it could be a really dangerous team. Although that entire division is just an absolute slaughterhouse.
Was talking about it with LeBron on my show on Monday, and he said, a lot of people around, or maybe it was Wyshynski. I think it might have been Wyshynski. Anyway, they were talking about how a lot of people around the league think that we might see high-scoring playoffs as well. Like that, all of a sudden, you're not going to see things tighten up. Like, this might not be the year where the best defensive team is the one that kind of locks it in and goes and wins a Stanley Cup or plays something along those lines, just because it's been so high-flowing this year and everybody getting back and maybe a little bit of wear and tear after not having a full season like this. And, I'll have to wait to believe it when I see it. But if that's the case, that's great news for Toronto. That's good news for this Florida team that is just, like, offensively one of the best we've seen in a long time. And maybe Edmonton, this is a year where offense wins it in the postseason. I don't know.
Well, listen, I hope you're right. Obviously, without a team in it, you want your bets to win, and you want to see fun, exciting games, and goals happen to be a big part of that. But as I said, I'll believe it when I see it. Let's talk a week into the playoffs, and we'll see whether the refs are actually calling penalties that have been called in the regular season. That's something that's happened year over year. There's just an erosion of what the standard is earlier on in the year until later on, and that could be an issue. That being said, though, the ability of some of these teams to put up goals is a lot more than I think we've seen in recent years, especially in that division led by a team like Florida. So I hope you're right. I'm just not convinced that will be the case.
All right, let's slide over to the Diamond, where everybody in the world's on the Toronto Blue Jays. And the number, I think, was minus 104 when you sent in last night. I saw them right when I was putting these numbers in, plus 114 on the money line right now for the Toronto Blue Jays. So give it to us, Huss, right? Like, I'm going to be riding on these guys pretty much every single day for the next 5 months.
I can't decide whether to just bet over in every game this season. We should track that, actually. Just if you bet the over. Originally, I got a little cocky after winning the first game with a run line bet after they were down 7-0, and thought maybe it would be the run line each and every game. But I think it's more money line. And hey, listen, this is a tough spot. It's on the road. It's Kikuchi's first start for the Blue Jays. Although I'm really excited to hear him. A guy lefty that throws 96 and can, change the speed of about 15 miles an hour on his off-speed pitches. I'm really excited to see how this goes. And man, we've seen the way this team can hit right now. And in a stadium like Yankee Stadium, which is, it's a little bandbox. If you have guys that are making good contact and have power, you can put up a lot of runs. So I would be fine with jumping on the over on this game as well. But who knows? Maybe we'll have a magnificent pitching performance. I'm just going to ride with the Jays money line and love the fact that we've had a nice little boost as some money's come in on the Yankees. Great late game coming up tonight and a heck of a pitching matchup. I mean, San Francisco, they still get no respect. What did they win? Like 115, 118 games last year. I mean, it was just absurd. And, they're still down in the odds. But listen, Alex Cobb was a big, big part of that. And the weird thing about the Giants are, I just really do feel like they're being somewhat disrespected. They're just going to go out and show everyone again that last year was not a fluke. They're going up against the Padres tonight. Heck of a great matchup with Cobb going up against Yu Darvish. Darvish had 6 scoreless innings in the opener of the year, but didn't get a decision. That being said, though, I like the Giants. I'm taking the Giants with Cobb at home, -109. It was very close to a pick 'em when I picked it yesterday. And then we've got the Cubs and the Pirates. Now, hopefully you won't be watching this game. There'll be far better options to watch tonight. But if you look at what these teams have done so far this season, it's routinely been a lot of times one team's getting 9 runs in their games, not just the total going over. You've got the Cardinals. They beat them 9-4, lost 6-2, and lost 9-0 right off the bat. And as far as the Cubs go to start off the season, I mean, they are 2-1, but man, they did it with a 9-0 win and a couple 5-4 decisions, one each way against the Brewers. Listen, afternoon game this afternoon. Bombs away, I think. We're going to see quite a bit of scoring. That number was at 9. I've got it at 8.5. I think it's a little safer at the -125. So we're going to take the Jays and the Giants on the money line. Cubs, Pirates over 8.5. When I threw that in yesterday, just about 6-1 if you want to parlay those at plus 577.
You said everything we need to say about the Toronto Blue Jays, man. I have thoroughly enjoyed what we've seen so far from this team. Even the game that they blew, I was just like, that first half of it when they're up 6-1, I was just like, this is going to be a really fun season. They know they're really good. We know they're really good. The atmosphere in the dugout appears to be absolutely amazing. If the pitching rotation continues to settle in like we expect it to, Manoah had a massive game yesterday. I think our over 99.5 is in play, buddy. I think our over 99.5 is in play. So it's early, but that'd be a nice lock shop hit later in the season.
It's all about the pitching to me. I mean, like we've seen so far. I mean, this team and maybe we just bet the Jays team total over every game. I mean, there's so many things. I think we should log these. We know what we've done so far and log what we've bet on the Jays all season long because it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun just to watch them. But the different ways that you can hopefully cash a few tickets on this team will be great. And if the starting pitchers get into a groove, and listen, Manoah was brilliant last night. I'm sort of talking about the guys that went on the weekend.
Yeah.
We're in for a heck of a fun. Listen, Barrios can't be much worse than he was when he lost a third of an inning in the first game.
Yeah, you're right. So he's only going to get better as well. Okay, so Seattle, Chicago is my other play. I'm going to go the White Sox -126 on the money line here. Seattle opened the season with a couple of wins, have lost their last 2. The White Sox opened the season with a loss, but have put up 15 runs in their last 2 games. Matt Brash makes his major league debut tonight for Seattle. And he was their prospect of the year last year. Highly touted pitching prospect, but he's making his major league debut against a pretty good Chicago White Sox team. A couple of the younger guys on Seattle side that they are expecting big things from and will be a big part of the franchise moving forward have been off to some slow starts offensively. So I'm going to go with Chicago money line -126 against Brash making his major league debut. And that'll be the only other play that I've got today in Major League Baseball. Let's slide over to the RBC Heritage where Corey Connor's back on the card yet again. He's getting a green jacket at some point, right, Huss? Like he's 3 for 3 in the last 3 top 10s. I mean, if his putting can hit at one of these Masters, he's going to get a jacket.
Exactly. He consistently gains significant strokes tee to green. And listen, when his putts are dropping, he's right there. And listen, it wasn't like he putted terribly or anything on the weekend, but you just need, the difference between where Corey was to where Scotty Scheffler was significant, but still better than most of the teams in the field. Here's the thing about the RBC Heritage. This is one of the most unique events on tour. We spent so much time talking about the big bombers and the drivers and the equipment and all that. Throw that all out when you get here to South Carolina. Hell, Stuart Sink won the tournament last year, and shout out to Stu. That was amazing at his age with his kid on the bag. Was really, really neat. But listen to these names that have won this tournament. Then they often have very good fields. Stuart Sink, Webb Simpson, C.T. Pan, Satoshi Kodaira, Wesley Bryan, Brandon Grace, Jim Furyk, Cooch, G-Mac, Carl Pedersen, Brandon Snedeker. You notice that none of the top guys, the big guys we're talking about being the big hitters are there. It's because it really doesn't matter. This is almost target golf, where guys off the tee are going to be trying to put their ball in specific places that give them the best chance for approach. And, to me, and the reason why Corey Conners is on this list again right now is this is a tournament where guys that are striking the ball well, have a real significant advantage. And that goes without saying, I think, in most, but more so at this golf course for the RBC Heritage. So I'm going to take Corey Conners. We sort of saw now there could be, for all these guys, they were in the Masters right now. You do wonder how guys bounce back. But I think part of the reason, especially when you look at the top of the field this week, many of these guys, I think we might see a bit of a drop-off from some of the players that, were expected to be there in contention and maybe weren't there at the Masters. So taking some guys outside of Corey Conners that were a little bit off the pack that do well. Webb Simpson next up, 33-1. Love that number. He's the sort of guy that was just built for this course, won it a couple years ago. Very consistent, drives it to the right spot, hits good iron shots, gives him a chance to make putts. So Webb Simpson's going on. And the other guy, if I love Kiz, we all know I'm a big Kiz guy. It ain't no hobby, as he says. There are some tournaments where Kiz, as he said, hey, they pay well for top 20s too. But if we're talking about outrights, this is the sort of place that Kevin Kisner can win. I believe he was a runner-up a few years back in this tournament. He can get dialed in. He'll get a lot of hometown love and support. So I jumped at that number at 40-1. So Corey Conners, Webb Simpson, and Kevin Kiz are the three picks for the RBC Heritage. And who knows, maybe we can make it 3 wins in 4 weeks. After all of those heartbreaks. Remember how this season started? God, it feels good that things have come around.
That is nice. You're right. Like we were just sitting, man, it's just how steady we've been. It was second, third, second. Like we had top 5s every week, couldn't get one, and now you've hit a couple, buddy. So hats off to you as we head towards the RBC Heritage.
Scotty Scheffler, because he's done both of them, match play and the Masters. And something tells me he's going to be on a couple more cards when he gets back onto it.
I'm going to go with Justin Thomas. He doesn't have a win yet this year, but he's playing very well. Like it's just a matter of time until Thomas ends up getting one. So far in 22, T5, T20, T8, 6th, T33, T3. Didn't do well at the match play. And then at the Masters, pretty steady. Had that 67 on Friday and then finished 72. I thought he played pretty well. So I think, he's striking the ball very well right now. So I'm going to go with Thomas up near the top end of it. And then I'm going to get to a couple of other guys that you don't see on a lot of our cards too often. I've got Matt Fitzpatrick that I'm going to throw in here. And the number on Fitzpatrick is what? 22-1. He's at plus 2,200 right now. 2021 at this event, he finished 4th. Started with a 71 and then went 64, 68, 68 to finish, was 13 under. The year before that, he was 14th, but he went 66, 66, 68, 68. So he has played this course very well. And so far this season, if you look at Fitzpatrick, kind of what I just said with Thomas, as far as a guy who hasn't been able to win yet, but Phoenix, he was T10. Pebble, he was T6. Arnold Palmer, he was T9. The Valspar, he was T5. Players, he was cut. And then the match play, he was 18th. And at the Masters, he finished pretty well. He finished his T14 at the Masters as well. So here's another guy that's been a steady diet of top 15s and 20s all season. Hasn't got one yet. And then I'm going to go Kevin Na. And Na, he had a 79 on Saturday, buddy. If he doesn't have that 79 on Saturday, he's moving up that leaderboard at the Masters because the 79 killed him. But outside of that, I thought he was pretty good. And just quickly on this event for Kevin Na, he's played it a ton, and he has finished top 5. No, he's finished top 10 5 or 6 times at this event. So playing well outside of that Saturday at Augusta, and has been close here before. So, and you get him at 49-1. So Kevin Na is kind of my sneaky pick at the end of the day.
I love the Kevin Na pick, dude. I'm almost kicking myself for not doing it. I will absolutely ride with you on Kevin Na. Matty Fitzpatrick, I mean, if we're sitting here talking about Fitz next week, I will not be surprised at all. He's been around all around it. And I think this is, another one of these courses that sets up well for him. And considering the way that he's played so consistently all year, I think he could very well be in the mix. Interested to see what we get out of Justin Thomas. I sort of mentioned he's one of those guys that I think the lull after the major might affect him. And by the way, little update on my picks. I actually had to source them before they were listed on CoolBet. And I'm a little surprised because of CoolBet with the amount of Canadians, but Corey Connors actually is 27-1 right now over at CoolBet, which is nice. Webb Simpson a little bit lower at 30-1. And our guy Kiz 49-1 as opposed to 40. So I'm going to they're right beside each other. I will be betting both of them and those other two guys. And hopefully we can be having another great. There's nothing better than the Tuesday lock shop when somebody's cashed a outright ticket in the tournament before, especially a major.
Time for me to step up here. I got to pull a Scotty Scheffler and get a dub here in the month of April.
Kevin Na, 50-1, and I'm riding with you, Dusty. Like that's the way we do it.
That'd be great. All right, before we wrap up the Lock Shop, obviously give us a follow on Twitter. Almost at 900 followers. Just follow at Lock Shop Bets. If you've not yet subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do that. Head on over to coolbet.com. When you sign up, just enter the code Lock Shop when you sign up, so they know that we sent you. And we would appreciate that. Huss, what's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, buddy?
As I said, it's now Winnipeg Storm Talk. I'm sure everyone in the chat will just be freaking out about what's coming here and questioning our choices in lives that we are living here at this present moment in time. But we will talk about the Jets win last night in Montreal. Very interesting performance for a team that was without Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele. And, played real hard. Morgan Barron had a great game and a lot of excitement about him, Dylan Sandberg. So we'll get to all of that. Mo Khan's going to join me from Montreal as well. We'll also have Dan Fink going to the Manitoba. Oh, Mo's my guy. I mean, he is. And the great thing about Mo, much like you, myself, very well-rounded sports guys. I mean, can pretty much talk about just about anything at any time. And that's why he's great on TSN in Montreal. And that's why we love having him on the program. Check in with the Moose as well as at home. Quickly on the way out, Jeff Malott, top scorer for the Manitoba Moose, made his NHL debut a couple weeks ago for the Jets. His brother made his UFC debut on the weekend and beat the hell out of Mickey Gall and got the dub. Great story. The entire Moose team agreed that they'd turn the phones off, have no alerts. They finished their game in Chicago, all went out together to watch the fights on a delay. He got the win, and pretty cool day for the Malott family. So we'll talk a little bit about that and anything else breaking, little Raptors, and, of course, Jays Yankees coming up tonight as well. Full show.
There you go, and we'll be back with another full episode of The Lock Shop. That'll be happening on Friday. Check out Winnipeg Sports Talk. I'll be on there with the Nielsen Show on TSN 1260 in Edmonton once again tomorrow morning. Break down the Oilers and the Wild. Huss, enjoy the next couple of days. Good luck, buddy, and we'll talk on Friday.
Yeah, if you need me, I'll be snowed in here. I mean, I won't be doing anything. I'm available for you if you need, Dusty. We'll talk to you Friday, buddy.